Hi, my name is Gordon Beaming. This is the release management video in the series that I'm doing on an overview of Visual Studio Team Services. In the first video, there was a more in-depth version of who I am. Videos we covered so far: VSTS accounts, covered team projects, work item management, source control, build, and this is the release video. Lastly, after this, we'll cover test, which sort of brings everything we've done together quite nicely. Okay, so releases, the what and why. Again, along with the whole it works on my machine, that could be true as well for the whole publishing experience. I used to once have a component installed on my machine that automatically added our notify property change stuff for Silverlight apps. I ended up publishing that off my machine into production, and everything went smoothly. What we found out though is when another dev published into production, our app sort of broke and didn't work as expected. And that was because when it built on my machine through Visual Studio, this extension that I had automatically did some magical things and basically changed the behavior of our application. Release management allows you to keep a consistent way of getting your apps into production by following a proper pipeline. That pipeline can also have manual intervention in it, where certain people in the organization need to authorize changes before they move to the next stage. For example, your QA lead may need to say when changes can be given to QA. You obviously wouldn't want to just throw new binaries on their environment while they're busy testing, because their stuff most likely just break. Then obviously the same thing goes for production. You ideally don't want devs to have the power to just push a button and have their code in production without it going through a proper pipeline. That pipeline should most likely automate stuff. Well, it should definitely automate the whole release procedure, but hopefully it also does some potentially integration testing and coded UI testing as sort of part of its release. Some would argue this should be done in build time. I mean, it sort of depends on your scenario, I guess. I prefer to keep things like unit tests and things that don't actually need an environment set up at build time, and move all the stuff that actually requires the system to be up and running, and move that to sort of a release management time. Not really we're ready to deploy to production time, but more of a pushing into CI environments sort of time span, which is what we'll cover here. So there exists a release management client, which is a Windows client. The demos here will not cover that client, but rather we would focus on the new experience, which is in the web. That web experience under cover uses a lot of the engine from build. As you'll notice, lots of the tasks are interchangeable between build and release. So effectively, you could do a build and release straight from your build definition. But obviously, the preferred way would be to use the release management stuff. So, and we're going to cover sort of what releases are, and also then cover some environment stuff along with the release management tools. So demo, what does that look like? So if we jump back into our builds, which is sort of where we left off, we're just going to make some slight changes before we actually jump to the release management or to the release tab, basically just so we don't have to come back here again later. So what we're going to do is we're just going to remove these last three build steps quickly. Then we're going to go add 3 new steps. The first one that we're going to add is MS build task, which we're basically going to use to, after we've built our app, we're going to use that to package it into a zip file. The other step we're going to add is one that publishes, or that publishes our boundaries or our output. You see we've added that. We go to utilities, we want to add 2 of these copy and publish build artifacts. We don't really need to, we can perform the steps in one. I like to use 2 separate steps for what I would call 2 separate tasks. So open this up, let's choose, there's our CSproj file. And click OK. And then platform, we're going to set that to build platform. Configuration, we'll set to build configuration. MS build args. MS build args. Basically what we're going to do here is we're going to say that the output path goes to the binaries directory. The package location is also the binaries directory, whack app zip, and we're going to call the package task on CSproj. Then head over to our copy publish artifact, and there what we're going to do is we're going to say our copy root must be set to our binaries artifact. So we just go there. The contents that we want is we want all folders and we want all zip files in those folders. Our artifact name, we're going to just call that drop, and artifact type will be server. Under the second one, what we're going to do is set our copy that in. We're going to go for our name, make it deployment scripts. Copy root, we're going to go and put that as a sources directory or deployment, and yeah, we want all folders and we want all files that are PS1s. So we want all our PowerShell files. Okay, let's go ahead and save that. And queue this build quickly. So once that build is finished, we'll go ahead and start creating our pipeline. The reason why we want to do this first is because then the artifacts exist that we've added, so that we can sort of, with less steps, create a pipeline. It will automatically know where those artifacts come from. Maybe we'll also show you how to add them in yourself. Let's give that some seconds. We go, the drop's done and it's finished. So from here, let's just go back to our build quickly. You can see that everything should be okay. Yeah, cool. So let's head over to release. Okay, when that eventually loads and the UI looks different from the last time I ran this, we're going to click new definition, and what we're going to want to do is our starting template is to Azure web deployment. We say we want this to come from a build. The build we want is this CI build. Yeah, we'll configure continuous deployment, and we want to use the default agent queue. You see a whole bunch of red. That's because we need to go ahead and choose our subscription. We'll use that Azure Classic subscription that we set up in our first video covering the accounts. And then we need to choose what our web app is going to be, and that will be demo-2016-0502, and we're going to host that in West Europe. There you go. and we're going to send that to the CR deployment slot. Okay, so that should be all that we need to change there. Let's go here and change the name of our environment to be CR. Give that a save quickly. You can see from, if we hit the little ellipses here, that we do get the option to set who needs to approve before it can go into this area or into this environment. Configure some variables, some conditions, etc. We can also clone this and save it as a template, similar again to what you could do under the build space. Under artifacts, you can see here that that will click to go to the actual artifact. What we want to do actually is we want to say, actually there we go. So you see, by default, this will automatically go and pull in the drop and deployment scripts artifact from our CI build. Again, a little while ago when I used this, probably 2 weeks ago now, this looked different. I suppose the joys of running the latest and greatest in the service. The configuration, here's where you can specify specific variables for your release, and then as mentioned, you can configure that on your environments tab. And the triggers, we did mention that this needs to be, can be CD and off our CR build. You see the trigger is set to be after the release's creation or created. Heading over to the general tab, you can see basically just the format of what our release should look like. And then again we have history, the same as inside our build tab. Before we kick off this release, let's add other environments quickly. So we want to create a new environment. Let's start with the empty template. Also they can let's do automatic approval, deploy automatically. We don't want it to automatically approve, and we want to use the default queue. We're going to go ahead and call this one test, and we're going to add a task to test called Azure PowerShell. The only difference between Azure PowerShell and regular PowerShell is that Azure PowerShell automatically does the authentication for you against the subscription that you select up top here. So we're going to choose our Azure Classic, and our script path is going to be, hang on one second, we call that swap slot 1. And that's going to say that it's going to call, this is the script path, haha. So we want to go to script path, we want to call inside our deployment scripts, we want to call the swap slots ps1 file, and script args, we want to drop that in. So basically calling that PowerShell script, we're going to pass in the website name, so demo 2016-0502. We're going to say our slot 1 is CR and slot 2 is test. Basically all this is going to do is do deployment slot swap for us. So we'll go ahead and clone this environment. It's usually the way you get stuff into production, into test is exactly the same way as you want to get stuff into production. So we'll go ahead and call this environment prod. We're going to perform exactly the same steps here, except we're going to use typos. We're just going to use a different slots. So you can see in this case, slot 1 is test, and slot 2 is production. Website name is still the exact same. So we go ahead and save that. And then let's go and create our release. So we're going to create that off our latest build that we have. You can see that it will automatically deploy it here, and we have to manually trigger sending it to test and prod. Well, after we hit create, release is created for us. From there you can see that it's currently in progress. Heading over to the logs, we can see a detailed version of what is happening, and then it's done. At this point, we go ahead here and we'll notice that this should update to say that to be our new calc app. Well, our old calc app that is now a new calc app. So give that time to load. And then that will load, and here's our app running. And then that will load, and here's our app running. So we can go ahead as usual, check that things work. Let's test out our divide method. Divide by 2. Cool, that works as well. We're happy to push this on to the next environment. So we'll go here, and let's just say that we want to deploy to testing, and hit deploy. This will go ahead and run our deployment script that will do the swapping for us. We'll give that a couple of seconds to run. And while we're here, let's just refresh this guy. You should see it. So let's just check how far it is. Okay, and it's complete. So head back here. Let's just do a Control F5, and you can see our app comes up. You can also notice that when we start using our app, it's really fast. And the reason for that is it's the same app that was running in our CI slots. So CI and test have literally just been swapped out with each other. So let's go do the same process now with prod. And we're going to do a CI swap between testing and prod. Remember, I said earlier, same thing. And if we go back and check on our deployments after a bit, see that it's complete. So now we refresh that site, you see calc demo coming up. Refresh our testing site, see it switches back to our Azure page. And over here we do an 8 divided by 2, and that will equal exactly what we expected to. So that's the overview of release management. In the last video that we covered as part of this, at least the initial idea behind the series, we will cover testing. And testing sort of brings this all together, from sort of the work item creation point all the way through to release management, to sort of give a small idea of how this works in the real world. Thanks. Cheers.